Hi, I'm Jeff Kirkham, the inventor of the Rapid Application Tourniquet System, or RATS, the most effective and fastest tourniquet system on the market. Today I'm going to be demonstrating the proper use on my own thigh, which is 26 inches, well above the average in size. I'm going to demonstrate the proper use of the RATS tourniquet. On my toe you can see we have a pulse ox and we have a stopwatch so that we can monitor how fast we can shut down the pulse to the end of my foot. With a RATS tourniquet we have our 3-finger loop, we have our cleat, and then we have the running end of the tourniquet itself. With the RATS, simply running in through the loop, pull down, tight, wrap so that the circumferential wraps create the amount of tissue compression that you need to shut down blood flow. When you reach the end, cleat off, and you can see that the pulse has already stopped on the end of my foot, so we don't even need to hit the start and stop time. The oxygen is the residual blood that's left in my leg, then that will shut down in the next few seconds. The RATS tourniquet, if you look up here, you can see that we have the desired amount of 1.5 to 2 to 3 inches of compression of tissue around the area that's needed to stop blood flow. If you look again at the pulse ox, you can see the oxygen is now stopped on the foot. The Rapid Application Tourniquet.
Hey guys, Dylan Schumacher, Citadel Defense, and chances are you have a RATS tourniquet. So, sit down, go grab your RATS tourniquet because we're going to take a look at it and I'm going to tell you why you should throw it in the garbage. Okay, so I got a RATS tourniquet a couple of years ago because at that time it was the only tourniquet I knew of that could fit on a child. You can also use them on pets. That was one of the big selling points for the RATS tourniquet, was that you could put it on a kid or someone with smaller limbs or whatever. And it was much more versatile than the standard like cat or soft T wide tourniquet. Saw several people on the good old YouTube that I respect and that recommended the RATS tourniquet, and so I bought 2 of them. I made my wife carry one around in her purse for a long time in case she ever needed one for our kids. Then I went and took some medical training and I found out why the RATS tourniquet is not that great. The first thing about the RATS tourniquet is that you need to remember what you need is about 2 inches width of band in order to get good compression. Now as you'll notice, this thing looks like about 1/2 inch of width in the band, and we'll show you why that's a problem. For those of you who don't know how to put on a RATS tourniquet, you're about to find out. This part goes through this loop. Okay, so if I ask you to put on your RATS tourniquet, right, if I were to say, hey, I just want you to go grab your RATS tourniquet right now, put it on. I'm going to pull up my black shirt here so hopefully you can see this a little bit better. Okay, so I want you to pause this video right now and put your RATS tourniquet on, and then we're going to compare notes. Did that? Okay, great. Here we go. So if I ask you to put on a RATS tourniquet, this is what you're going to do, right? You're going to crank that sucker hard, come over here, then you're going to work it through that cleat, right, in order to stop it. Now here's the problem with the RATS tourniquet. You see all these little differences do you see all these gaps here where I wrapped the tourniquet, right? What's going to happen is you're going to get compartment syndrome on each one of these bands, and all of the tissue between there is going to die. And when the tissue dies, everything below it has to get amputated. Which means that if you wrap your RATS tourniquet like this, I'm going to lose everything below this tourniquet. I'm going to have to get it amputated because all of the tissue between here is going to compartmentalize. You're going to get compartment syndrome, and that tissue is going to die. So I'll have bands of live tissue with interspersed with bands of dead tissue, and like I said, then it all has to go. That is the problem with the RATS tourniquet, is that because it gives you compartment syndrome, you're automatically going to lose that limb. With a standard tourniquet, right, like a soft T wide or a cat tourniquet, you're not going to lose the limb. The tissue directly underneath the tourniquet can still be alive. Now look, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional, none of that stuff. However, I'm just telling you what I've learned is that if you use this thing, it is going to kill the tissue, you're going to get compartment syndrome, and you're going to have a problem. Now, one thing you could do to try to mitigate that problem is to wrap the tourniquet as tight together as possible, right? So I could try to wrap it something like that. I can't go around to the cleat right now, but if I stretch it better, you could, right? So all the tourniquet is lined up better to not have those compartments. You could attempt to do that. Here's where we meet the second problem with the RATS tourniquet. That is, have you ever tried to put this thing on your leg? So let's say we had to put the RATS tourniquet on our leg. Now I'm going to try here. I'm going to do it kind of mid-thigh so that you can see what's going on here. All right. Again, I'm going to take it and I'm going to crank it as much as I can. All right. So that's one. And maybe I can get it around a second time. So I get about 2 to 3 wraps right there is what I'm getting. And if I put it, of course, further up on your leg where it's supposed to go, oh yeah, I can't get it around a third time. So that's it. That would be about it right there. So that's really about 1 bandwidth. I'm getting about 1 bandwidth if I put it around, or excuse me, 2. You're getting 2 bandwidths if you're putting it around where you're supposed to put it on your leg. So that's the other problem is it's not going to stop bleeding, or it's not going to be able to, I should say, reliably and effectively stop bleeding if you have it on a large limb like a leg. There are lots of times where people have to use 2 cat tourniquets or 2 soft T wide tourniquets on legs. And this just isn't going to cut it. It doesn't have enough length. And then again, we go back to that compartment syndrome issue where this isn't wide enough. So what you should do is take your RATS tourniquet and you should throw it in the garbage. That's where it should go. You should get a soft T wide tourniquet by Tactical Medical Solutions, or you should get a cat tourniquet by North American Rescue, and those are the only 2 tourniquets you should really have. Honorable mention to the SWAT tourniquet. I think one of the things they could do with the RATS tourniquet to make it better is if they took this band and made it more like the soft T wide tourniquet. If they widened this sucker out to 2.5 inches, and that was your width on this, and then you added another, I don't know, 2 feet of length on this so that you could you could wrap it around your leg better, I think then we might have a viable product here. But unfortunately, as it stands, I think the RATS tourniquet is more of a problem than a help, because you're going to end up with that compartment syndrome, and if you need to use it on a leg, or maybe someone who's just really beefy and they got a really big arm, you're going to run into problems and you're not going to be able to control bleeding. Throw your RATS tourniquet away. Thank me later. Do brave deeds and endure.